So then how'd you get to use that as your drive to then choose the path towards being a SEAL? Like what was that next choice that you made?
For me, it was really a lot of it was momentum. When I decided to be a SEAL or decided to be a fighter pilot, I then found out the best fighter pilots came from the Naval Academy, right? Naval aviators. And so by the time I was getting out of third grade, I was convinced I was going to be a fighter pilot and go to the Naval Academy. And I started working towards that goal in third grade, which again is not normal, right? That's kind of weird to have a kid be that singularly focused from that early on. And I never strayed from third grade on. So throughout that whole time up until seventh grade, when I found out about the SEALs, at that point, the SEALs were part of the Navy. So I was still on the path of I'm going to the Naval Academy. And ultimately, being able to lead is the opposite of bullying. Bullies use their power to hurt people. Leaders use their power to help people. And so I would say that I've always been strongly driven to lead as well. And so that gave me the opportunity going to the Naval Academy to not only fulfill my dream of hunting bullies, on the battlefield, but also being able to lead men in doing that, being the opposite of what hurt me for so long in my young life. And so I worked towards going to the Naval Academy and was fortunate enough to compete through very challenging circumstances to get an appointment to the Naval Academy. We had 12,000 applicants for my class and 1,200 in my graduate or my class that started on I Day in July 1st, 1994. So it was less than 10% of the applicants get in. That year, it was the third hardest school in the world to get into.
Phew. So you get through, you get into and then through the Naval Academy, and then we'll get into the next part of our story. As we kind of wrap up this segment, what was that experience at the Academy like leading into getting selected for a SEAL billet?
I'd say the two big pieces to that, like my experience at the Naval Academy. The first one, actually, I'd say three big chunks. First one is responsibility. It's amazing, right? By the time I was a sophomore, 19 years old, I was responsible for two freshmen. By the summer of my sophomore year, I'm on a ship where I'm responsible for 5 or 6 enlisted guys in a dangerous environment. So I was responsible for another human being's life by the time I was 19. And every day from that point forward, it just got to be bigger responsibility with more people. So that aspect of leadership, and that leadership is something you can learn, was one of the biggest lessons in the Naval Academy. The other one was brotherhood. Like, it's amazing. And I say brotherhood not from a male perspective, just from the concept of a tight bond with other human beings. I had some amazing female classmates that I'm still close with today, but the bond that I have with some of my classmates, because the Naval Academy is more prison than college, right? It's more like being in jail than it is like going to a college. They have uniforms, a wall that you can't go over, everything's gray, and you're literally locked in your room as a freshman at night. So it is much more prison than college, and that hard, challenging environment, both in one of the hardest engineering degrees you can get, and military responsibility and leadership responsibility, all piled on top of it, produces strong bonds. So that ability to be on a high functioning team started there. And the last piece of my journey it's fucking hard to get a SEAL billet out of the Naval Academy. The 12,000 applicants to 1,200. So you're talking 1,200 of the best people in the country are now in the school. You're competing with those 1,200. There's about 200 that wanted to be a SEAL freshman year. That got narrowed down to about 50. It was exactly 53 my senior year. So you went from 12,000 to 53, all 53 extremely qualified to be SEALs. We're talking the captain of the swim team, the captain of the wrestling team, the captain and co-captain of the football team. We had the captain of gymnastics team. I mean, we had a guy that was a Rhodes Scholar that was his senior year at the academy in London studying at Oxford. Like, you're talking, he was ranked number 2 in the class academically it's insane. Like that's the 53 I had to compete against.
Wow. And so the next part of your story is way deeper, way longer, and there's another video.
And
but
yeah, with those finishing this up, those 53 had to compete for 15 spots. So you're having to compete both academically, militarily, and physically with those 53 people, and then they select from that competition. They select the top 15 to go to Buds, and that's just. And I remember, this is a good place to end. I remember being at dinner. So the 15 of us that got selected, we went out to this dinner. Would have been February of my senior year. And we're all celebrating this big steakhouse because we all got, we got our dream. And everyone's, happy and drinking and celebrating. And I got real somber, and they looked at me, hey, what's wrong? I'm like, wait a minute, guys. Like, we didn't win anything. We won a ticket to go get tortured in the hardest military training in the world for the next 2 years. Like, we didn't win a race. We just started the marathon. And so it turned a little bit more somber in that. And that was the start of the journey. And then from there, picking what class, we got to choose when we went. And I got to go with one of my best friends. We'd been inseparable for 2 years training at Yield Hall. And we chose to go in the winter class. So there was 3 spots for the winter class. And that's the hardest class you could choose. And being the glutton for suffering that I am, we chose to go. We started in September, and we were slated to end in May, and early May. So it just starts getting colder, and we had a hell week that was in the winter, and then going through dive phase in December and January is just hellish. And you go out to San Clemente Island in the spring when it's still snowing. Like it was a bad choice, but one that I'm grateful for making. And so that leads us to Buds, which I think is a good place to stop and then pick up next time.
Yep, we'll see you guys on the next one when Larry gets to talk about his Buds experience. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And if you got questions, put them in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll have more videos like this, but comment below on what you'd like to hear more about. It'd be awesome for us to be able to do some shows where all we do is answer some of your questions.
Oh man,
so.
Yeah, absolutely. If you keep piling on the questions, that'll make a compelling case for us to come and answer them, and for Larry to get to give some very complete answers to those questions. So definitely.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you in the next video all about Buds.